Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the dinner table. I am so glad you're here with me, and I'm also so glad to have a repeat offender at the dinner table conversation, Kim Rios, my dear longtime friend. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. It's really good to be here.
Yay. I know, right? One of the things I love, you show up, and that has always mattered to me. If I
I
say,
try.
yeah. Well, and I think I've thought about it a lot, and this time that I've been going through and just learning some new things, and I know that you've been single and you've been living this life, and of course your kids were younger whenever all the things have been occurring for you. I was thinking about you the other day, and I was thinking about how you show up, and you take the time to go out. And I think that part of that is I think you really appreciate a lot of the things that I do. I think that's part of it. I hope that's part of it.
Definitely. I always enjoy coming out here for
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's like my happy place.
Well, even at the Grow Local, I mean, you were there too.
Yeah.
You showed up for that stuff too. But I also think that what I'm learning is that I've got to show up. If I want to meet people and be out there and not be isolated all the time, I have to show up.
Yeah. I think I really love my community.
Yeah.
And so I just show up for that.
Yeah.
Day of the Dead, with K-Space and which is coming up if any of you want to volunteer.
Yeah.
But yeah, just it's important, I think, my community.
To show up.
Mhm.
Yeah. And to be there. I appreciate the longtime friendship that we've had, and I appreciate the way that you talk about, the farm and hearing your experiences with the farm. One of the first things you said when you came in the door today was like, okay, I've had a day, I'm in a mood, but I'm so glad to be here because when I walk on to the farm.
Oh, I instantly opened my car door and I just felt good.
Yeah.
Good again.
It means so much for me to hear that, not just from you, because, we're close friends. And one thing I'll tell you, and this is one of the things I love about you, is that, and one of the things that we have very much in common is this intense truth telling. Like if I say it, then I mean it. I'm not just saying it. So there's that. But at the same time, when it's a close friend, there's always a perception of a little bit of a prejudice. Like, she really likes it because they're really good friends, that kind of thing. But I hear that from other people. I hear about the vibe, the feeling of being here at the farm. And that's so important to me because that above anything else that I do is what I'm trying to create out here. Is that safe space for people to come and heal. Really.
And you do a great job of it.
Thank you.
It's really nice out here.
It means so much to me because I need that. And I know my spiritual beliefs is there is no separation between any of us, which means if I need it, you need it.
Right. We all need it.
We all need it.
Let me tell you.
Exactly. We all need it. And so I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you came out. Thank you for all of your honesty. Of everything. And then you did another thing on your way out here for me that was a huge help. I got baby chicks today. This is another one of those new season of Aislinn, taking on things by myself. It's not, I'm the one cooking now and I'm the one getting the chickens now. And the thing about it is, and we were talking about this at dinner time, I did all these things
before.
Yeah. I mean, I got chickens by myself prior. I cooked by myself prior. I was good at it. I could handle it, all of that. And so it's kind of this strange sensation about stepping into each new season, each new month, each new phase of what's happening, and getting the baby chicks today was a thing. So I got 21 little tiny baby chicks. They're so cute, little peep, 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 peep. The reason I get them in September is because it's a warm time of year and they need to be 95 degrees because they're a day old when I get them in the mail. My postman brought them this morning.
How
and
exciting.
I know, right? And he pulled up and he was like, I was like, you have my babies? And he was like, yeah. And so then he wanted to talk to me. He wanted to ask me advice because he has chickens. And he was like, September the 29th, I'm having a full moon happy hour tasting event here at the farm. If anybody's interested in coming out to it, I have 14 reservations still available. Kim's going to come out and help me out with that as well. And that's going to be really nice because you're just here on the farm, and I'm going to put together delicious foods, things you might have heard about here on the podcast. Definitely things that are happening from my farm. So anything that we've produced out here, anything we've grown, but then also anything that I can find from my farmers at the farmers market. I've got some feta goat cheese from Lowborough Farms. I've got some smoked pork tenderloin from Turkey Hollow. We're just going to pull out all the good stuff. And I'm really grateful to have your help to come out and be a part of that
Yeah,
with me.
and I'm also excited about that moon energy.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
such a great feeling.
How did you get involved in the moon the other day?
Oh, I did.
I did
Me
too.
and the kids always make a list of what we want
Uh-huh.
to release,
Uh-huh.
and we read our list to the moon, and then we burn it, separately, of course.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun, and I like that I've gotten my kids involved with that.
Hmm.
You know.
The timing of this last moon release was really big for
Mm-hmm.
me. Like, and it felt like I actually feel like I released some
Oh,
really, really,
big
really big
energy,
shit that I needed to release.
big
And I was really
energy.
glad to be a part of that. And so thanks for helping me out with the bulb for the baby chicks.
Of
And I'll
course.
let you guys all know the details of how chick raising occurs now that I'm doing all of that stuff by myself. I also got to catch up on The Bear season 2. Got Hulu hooked up on my TV over here, with my magical ways. And I freaking love that show so much.
It's a good show. I've only watched the first season and maybe one episode, but I have to go finish it because
It's
yeah, I've heard great things.
I'm a weird binger of certain things. It's not unusual, especially in the summertime for me, because I go out in the morning and I'm out there in the heat at 8 a.m. and I'm working till, noon or so. If it's other times of the year when it's a little bit cooler, I do the same thing, but at a different, a little bit later in the day. But it wears me out. I mean, it sucks all of the energy out of me. And so what I do then instead, in addition to just like keeping the house clean, chop wood, carry water, just getting stuff done, do the things with my hands that need to be done. I'll sit behind the laptop and work on stuff that needs to be worked on the computer. I'll work on my budget. I'll pay bills. But then I also will do things like prepare my basil to make basil salt or shell black eyed peas or whatever. Well, if I'm not on my computer working, which even sometimes some certain shows I can just turn them on in the background. And I've kind of found myself, I'm like the ladies that used to watch soap operas in the middle of the day, like
Yes.
that's basically what's happening with me,
Um,
And I got on The Bear the other day and I think I watched the whole thing in like a day or 2 days. I don't even,
nice.
but that show means so much to me because some of the things that you and I even talked about at dinner time about just, being in the present moment, but like everything that can go wrong, because they're trying to open a restaurant in season 2. And everything that can go wrong is going wrong.
Hmm.
Plus, they're all screaming and hollering at each other like the whole entire time. The Italian family is just screaming and hollering at each other all the time. But everything always works out, you know?
Yep.
And then there's situations, and I don't want to tell you what happens at the very end, but they get locked in to situations that had they done something different and knew that if they'd done this thing, then they wouldn't get trapped into this problem,
Hmm.
right? And I'm telling you all, I'm saying it this way because I don't want to spoil things that happen. Basically, you see them seeing their way into and out of problems. There's an episode where the cousin, they call him cousin every time, cousin. I think they call each other cousin all the time, but he goes and works at the restaurant that Carmi used to work at. He goes and works because he's trying to get him to like learn some front of the house stuff. And he kind of is acting like an ass the whole time because they've asked him to like wash the forks, like wipe the
Hmm.
forks down. And he's like, basically like, I'm too good for this, And then finally the manager like takes him outside and he's like, listen, he asks him first, he goes, so you've drank the Kool-Aid here too? Because he's like, listen, I love this place and, whatever. And finally the guy goes, you know, people come to this restaurant. It's a 3-star Michelin. It's really expensive. But it's a scene. and they've come to Chicago maybe on vacation or something special is going on in their life. And these meals really mean something to them.
Mhm.
And he also talked about how getting sober, the guy that was talking to the other guy, kind of trying to explain to him why these things are important, why we have to act the way we act, whatever. He's like, when I was getting sober, the one thing that really like helped me was service to people, serving people. And so when I went through that whole process of, getting sober and everything like that, and then I started working in a restaurant, it's like, I just loved serving people. And it flipped the guy. It got him, like, all of a sudden he, was at the front of the house, and he was just like a completely different person. And there was a point when they would show him his alarm going off at 5:30 a.m. And you know this feeling, we all do. His alarm was going off at 5:30 a.m. He's like rolling out of bed and coming in late and
Mhm.
whatever. But then by the end of his like week-long work stint at this place, he was like up, 5
Up
minutes
and at
before the
'em.
alarm got
Mhm.
up, and he was just like happy to get there. And he had seen the shift in what we do is just this really special. And the guy even talked to him about healing and caring for people, like a hospital, like
Mhm.
hospitality. Like, this is a place that we can care for people and offer them something special. And, Bellino's, you're a server at
I
Bellino's,
am.
and I feel that way.
We do. I mean, I think we take a lot of care and a lot of pride in what
Mhm.
we do. I always say I like to serve people the way I like to be served.
Yeah.
You know, um, I want my needs to be anticipated. I just
Mhm.
just I don't know, going above and beyond.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of nice to work at a place that cares so much about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that has really good food.
Yeah. That's great food. And the thing about it is that in Corpus Christi, when people go to Bellino's, it's usually something special. I mean, yes, there's a group of people that's the family restaurant, and they go there every week, and
Sometimes twice.
yeah. But generally, most people,
Right, they're on a date
yeah,
or,
it's a special event.
graduation,
Yeah.
something. Mhm.
Yeah. And that is, and then, and you saying, I just care about my community, and
Mhm.
it takes like, and so it there's something about that show that's really like spoke to me in a way about like, you know, shit happens, life happens, life's loud and it's
Mhm.
hard, and our every single one of us has some story from our parents that's just, like dysfunction junction, like all of that. But at the same time, what we do with that afterwards as adults, and how we interact with our loved ones and our family, and how we communicate what's important to us. And there's just, I just got this feeling last night where I was just like, there's something really special about this show. And I think that is, I'm curious to know what the chefs would think about this show, The Bear, whether they think, that, it's similar to what's really happening in the back of
I
the
just
house.
remember one time or the first season and all the tickets are coming and,
Yes.
or like the machine
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the cooks, Bellino, was like, "Oh, yeah, we understand that,
Yeah.
definitely." It was like
Freaking
traumatic.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and she goes through, that chef goes through a thing where she's like, she's working through her shit too. She's working through the idea of failure, failing again, and having to convince her dad, that what she's doing is something important. And he's over
Mhm.
here like, well, you could get this, the 9 to 5 job. You could just go
Mhm.
do the thing, and I'm like, everything about the storylines, all the different particular storylines, it's like, it all hits so close to home.
Mhm.
And I really appreciated that. And I'm enjoying it. So I'm eager to hear what more people think as they start to watch season 2, because I think season 2 is even better than season 1.
Wow.
Although, I mean, I feel like I need to go. I mean, I binged that show so fast the first season that I just remember like, oh, it doesn't surprise me that I would binge it so fast the
The
second
second,
season, because
right.
it's just so fantastic. I just loved it so much. So, I was also curious about your thoughts, just because you and I are so similar in kind of where we are in life and what we're going through, and are known each other a long time. What are your thoughts about? Did you hear last week's episode with Michelle?
I did.
what do you think about
I
hypnosis? What do you
thought it
think
was
about?
super interesting. I just really like that episode. I'd really like to try it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm
Mhm.
wondering if that wouldn't be something that would help you out too.
Mhm.
Because now I've gone twice. The second time she put me under like so quick, and I think I'm just like falling asleep taking a nap. She's like, no, you're alert because I
Mhm.
ask you to like raise a finger and you raise a finger. I ask you to like nod your head and you nod your head, and I'm like, really? And
It's so
it
interesting.
is it's weird. I would say that like maybe the intimidating part for somebody might be like, oh, you're like asleep and she's still got you like doing things, so what is she saying to you, like.
Right.
But I can tell you that I feel better after 2 sessions with her. I feel like it was the jump start that I needed, ripping that old identity, those things that I just couldn't seem to like get through. I think knowing what I've been through and having listened to me communicate for a while, she can hear things that I say and how I feel about things, and I think she's just eager to see what kind of healing she can do with me,
Right. No,
you know?
she seems very knowledgeable in her field. I
Mhm.
listened this morning actually.
Uh-huh.
But I really enjoyed her.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed her.
Yeah, it was really good. So all of that healing stuff, and I would say, give it a try when the timing is right for you. I would
Mhm.
suggest that you go for it because I think that might be exactly what you're looking for is the jump start, the kick start. It's like revving an engine, like pulling an engine. Like, you get in these, I know that like after 40 something years of life, we get really good and we're doing all the things and everything's going great and we're focusing on, we're not thinking negative thoughts about ourselves all the time, and we're, having positive attitude and things are going great and we're creative and all this stuff's going and we're following out all of our habits really well. And then all of a sudden we get into this like dip, this
Mhm.
depression, this tower moment,
The
this,
slump. The
yeah.
2 tower moments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And you're like, how the hell, like, and in those moments, it's like, I'm never gonna get out of this. I'm just gonna feel like this for the rest of my life. What's the point? Why am I here? Why do I even want to live? Like, who wants to live? This is horrible. This is the
Mhm.
worst, whatever. I tend to be one of those people, thank God I had kids, because that's the thing that always pulls me up. Like, or the fact that I have that I'm an accountable person, which means that I've committed to something. That's what always gets me out of the slump. Because it's like, you're
Yeah.
like, I don't have a
I got shit
choice.
to do.
People, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I
Like,
don't have time for
I
this
don't
shit.
have time for
I like to
this.
say that too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So, all of that being said, we're still hosting garden healing every Monday out here at the farm. This time of year, it's hot, so come early in the morning. 8 to 11 kind of situation. As the temperatures start to cool off, I'll be outside till later in the day. The best thing to do if you want to come out for garden healing is to send me a message just in case, who knows, what if I got sick or something like that, just to make sure, also know that you can pick up eggs. I've got any of my extra produce. I'm always going to start to have that available. Anything I'm making out here at the farm, the salts, the red wine vinegars, all of that kind of stuff. I'm also picking up plants. So I have plants for sale. So coming out to garden healing on Mondays, basically the farm is open. You can pop in and out. You can just come by to say hi, or you can come and just piddle with me in the garden. I told somebody today that I struggle with PTSD. I constantly have been seeking ways to just be healthy and grounded and handle myself. And for me, it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning about opening this space up and it just being this healing space for other people, for me to share, what I've learned or whatever. And that's really what garden healing is about. It's just about being here. And if that means we're piddling in the garden together and we're getting our hands in the dirt, that's good for you. That's healthy. But it's also healthy for you to just get some sunshine, to
Mhm.
have some fresh air, to
Vitamin
walk
D.
around, to just be outside. Gardening. You said it today. You said, man, I'm taking care of some things for some plants for my parents or whatever, and I went out and I was just watering, and
Super cathartic.
it makes you feel good.
Mm,
Just being outside, understanding that grounding is just essential. And it's just when we're in that slump, it's so easy to just get stuck in the couch,
it
just
is.
stuck there.
But just once you make it outside, you're just instantly mood changed, you know?
Yes.
It's nice.
Yeah, I love it. And I don't know well, tonight's meal was very interesting. Just number one, because what I love about the conversations now is that there's lots of talk happening while we're cooking dinner. And my little distracted self, it gets very easily distracted. And so some of the things are working, some of the things are not working while I'm talking, but I'm trying really hard to stay focused. And then in addition to that, there's a lot of experimenting going on with my food. That's the reason why I often wasn't the one that cooked,
Hmm.
was because I'm real experimental, and I might make some stuff that just screws everything up, right? I don't follow the directions. I don't, whatever.
But I also feel like lets the ingredients shine through,
Uh-huh.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the point. That's the
Right,
thing, is that
right.
I'm going to
Hmm.
focus on, okay, this is what I have. And then I'm going to experiment and find a way. And then also add the experiment of, I'm trying really hard to do everything as close to the anti-inflammatory protocols. I've been using that term a lot more than autoimmune, because telling people they have inflammation is easier than explaining to them that they have an autoimmune
It
disorders.
sounds better.
Yeah, it's just, well, because saying somebody has an autoimmune disorder is like, well, you can't diagnose me. And I'm like, okay, you're right, I can't. But you have inflammation, right? You have pain in your joints, eczema, all the things. Oh, yeah, I have that. Okay, then you have
Mhm,
leaky gut and
mhm.
dysbiosis is occurring, and that's causing whatever. But either way, every recipe I have to go through and find a version that will closest meet with the least amount of inflammatory things,
Mhm.
basically. And so this week, I harvested so much basil that I ended up having to throw a bunch of it out to the chickens because I just couldn't get it cooked fast enough. You see that ginormous bowl over there that's
I
probably
do.
about 2 foot wide? It was full of basil to the top. And so I was making basil pesto, but I made a 5-minute nut free, dairy free pesto. And I was about to tell you off mic that my armpits smell so bad right now because I've eaten so much garlic in the
Mhm.
last couple days because I made all that basil pesto. But it's really delicious. And regardless of like what our palates are, or we grew up in an American diet, and an American diet means we sit in front of the TV and we eat chips and dip, and we eat snacks, and we eat
Mhm.
cookies, and we eat this and we eat
Cereal,
that. Yeah, yeah,
sugary cereal.
all the things that we grew up eating,
Mhm.
right? And so to go on a diet means, oh, you're not supposed to eat any of the snack foods that, you've been habitually eating for, 40 years or however long your parents were letting you eat that kind of stuff. So I have come up with just like all of these different ways to do it. And this basil pesto
It
was
was really
really good
good.
for, like, just I could dip my chips in it and just eat it like that. And so I ate a ton of it. I probably ate like 4 cups of it. It just, like, and ridiculous amounts of garlic in it. But what's good about it is it's the nut-free, dairy-free version. And of course, lots of garlic, olive oil. It says 2 cups of fresh basil, and or you can use some spinach leaves or arugula. When I made it this past week, which I'm going to sell some of it at the farmer's market. That's the reason why I made so much of it. And I'm going to probably make some more of it. I didn't add the arugula to that, but when I made it tonight for our recipe, I did add the arugula to it. And then nutritional yeast instead of Parmesan cheese. So 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and then a salt. And then you could add red pepper flakes to it if you're not doing, that's it. Red pepper, nightshades, those are inflammatory.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make myself choose to not put red pepper or hot sauce on everything like I used to. I'm not saying I can't have any, but I'm not just constantly putting, basically I'm not constantly putting inflammatory things in
On anything, yeah.
every diet I eat, right? I also made this week a Tabasco sauce that I'm
Mm,
going to have for sale at the farmer's market in Rockport. And it turned out really, really good.
hmm,
And I actually, on Monday, quite a few people came out this last Monday for Labor Day. And I sold several bottles of it and got lots of compliments on
oh,
it. And
good.
that's real simple. And I just grew, my Tabascos that I grew. And then it's just vinegar, basically. That's, garlic. You add some garlic into it if you want. You could do other things to the recipe if you want to. And I have these pretty little bottles that I ordered from Amazon. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, the creativity of cooking and doing things for my business has really become a lot of fun.
Oh, that looks fun. I was perusing your little.
Checking out all my stuff
Yes,
over
it was
there.
nice. Very nice.
You tasted my superstar salt
It was
tonight.
very good.
I made another batch of that, so I'm going to have some of that for sale. It's fun. It's fun to do these things, and I guess I had kind of forgotten. I was listening to some TikTok video or whatever, and it was a woman saying that as she got back into her entrepreneurial spirit, got back to working at home again, she discovered a couple of things. Number one, it's so much easier to run your business if your house is clean. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because I've learned that like I enjoy cleaning my house now, and little pops of things. I don't enjoy cleaning the toilet, but pretty much everything
I mean,
else is
who
no big deal.
does?
I guess nobody. I
Ugh.
don't know. Like the thing that I have to not do is to get compulsive about it. It rained yesterday here at the farm, and I was walking in and out of the house, watering and just kind of taking care of things, and I left footprints on the floor. Well, if nobody's here, I don't give a crap about the footprints on the floor, but you were about to show up. And so I was literally down on the floor just with a rag and a spray bottle, just cleaning up the
Mhm.
footprints. I didn't have to mop the whole damn floor. I
No,
just
yeah,
needed to clean that one
just a
little
little bit.
spot,
Hmm.
So back to the chop wood, carry water, just keep doing that. But she also talked about, and this is the thing that I think goes back to like cooking and cleaning the kitchen and all that. But she said being at the sink, doing the dishes is actually meditative. And I was like,
Hmm.
yes, it is.
It is.
It is. And it used to be a moment of resentment. Instead of being this positive, meditative time for me, all my life, if I was over at the kitchen sink, I was grumbling about doing the dishes and the kids and just total negativity. And now I hear myself like saying nice things and I'm just really enjoying the hot water and really cleaning
You
and
just flip
just
that switch,
just
you know,
flip
in
the
your head. Yeah,
switch. Yeah.
just it's
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah, yeah. It's a new season of Aislinn, man. There's all kinds of new things occurring. So that basil pesto got me the idea. I was like, okay, well, basil pesto, seasonality, tons of basil. And basically, what's happening at the dinner table is whatever I have an overflow of abundance of
Yeah.
is what I end up cooking with. So last week was frittata. Well, my eggs were doing really good. I got lots of eggs now. So let's do a frittata. Well, this week is like massive amounts of basil. Okay, well, let's make some kind of basil pesto pasta or whatever. So I made crispy chicken thighs with pasta and pesto. Really simple. You cook the chicken. I did it in the cast iron. You cook that first, then you cook the pasta. I use those jovial grain-free noodles. And then after you've cooked those, then you cook the pasta and then you pour the pasta back into the drippings from the chicken in the cast iron, put in a little bit of chicken broth and then put the pesto in there and stir the noodles around, which I have to admit that the jovial noodles don't hold up well when you like cook and then recook. Like they kind of fall apart. So if you don't need jovial noodles and you can eat grain, you could eat gluten free and they stay together even better. Or if you can eat regular pasta, that would probably be better than what I use. But it works out just fine. So then you put all that stuff back in the cast iron, and then you put the chicken on top of that with a little bit of pesto, and then you pop that in the oven. Which I think whenever I was cooking the chicken, I was trying to cook it, and then I thought later on I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put it back in the oven again,
And
which is
it
probably why
finishes,
it
right?
finishes.
Hmm.
I thought it was pretty
Oh, it
tasty.
was excellent. I mean, I literally don't eat chicken
Uh huh.
unless I'm here.
Yeah.
Like one time we did fried chicken.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You're right.
cold, and
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
had like two pieces,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
even ate the skin, which is like unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, crazy things are happening out here on the farm.
I know. Yeah. And chicken is just easy and it's the least expensive. Pasture raised price points that I purchase things, chicken is still less expensive
Oh
than
yeah, for sure.
other things. And so that's the reason why I chose that. But I thought that was really good. I liked the way, even though the noodles cooked down maybe a little more than I liked the way the pesto, like putting in the oven, like cooked it into the pasta. The
Hmm.
pesto
It
flavor
was
was
very
like cooked
tasty.
into the pasta. And so it wasn't the most beautiful dish I've made, but it was tasty. And it was definitely something that you could feed to your kids. Very easy, like just quick, easy meal to make. Making that pesto in your food chopper takes like 5 minutes. Like it's not even a thing. And so that's one I would definitely suggest that people try out. And then of course we made our salad with the okra and the
So
pears.
good.
And I just throw the greens together from the grocery store
I
at this
never had
point.
Malabar spinach, and it was really nice.
Yeah, I threw
Mhm.
that in there too. And then, okay, so last week we talked about the purple salt, Redmond salt with pea flour. Pea flour dyes the salt. My friend Sandy made that for me. Well, I got the idea of taking the seeds from the Malabar spinach, which, if anybody knows Malabar spinach, you know that the seeds have this maroon, like purple dye. And so if you touch the seeds, they're going to leave purple all over your hands. So I was like, huh. So I took those with the salt, chopped it in my food processor, and it's now purple salt. With it doesn't really even have any flavor of anything. It's just purple salt.
It's
So I
really
found another
pretty.
way to use the Malabar dye. And you could take that Malabar stuff and do other types. Like I was telling my friend Michelle when she was out here, she's an artist and she paints and does all kinds of very creative, like imaginative things. And I told her, because her husband bought one of the Malabar spinach plants while he was out here, I said, take those when you get it growing, and it'll be better next season because it's a hot it doesn't like the reason it had all, you notice it had all those little like dots on it.
Mhm.
That's because that plant had gotten a lot of water. That plant wants to be hardly any water the heat of the summer, but it's a green you can eat, even with that. But you could take the seeds when it makes its seeds and actually just draw with them and paint with them. You could
Interesting.
also dye cloth.
Well, I was thinking I have something I need to dye.
You could totally do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's just a matter of going and collecting all the seeds. And I have plants that have it on it. So come out on a Monday and collect
Mhm.
some
Perfect.
Malabar seeds. So, okay. And then the other thing that I made, because we have a ton of pears out here and we didn't end up canning pears this year. Number one, because we still have canned pears from last year because we made so many canned pears. My mom and dad made so many canned pears last year. And then my mom and dad went on some trips this year at the timing. So we didn't have any pears canned this year. So I've been cooking the pears and using them for all different things, putting them in salads and whatever. And I decided I wanted to try to make some kind of a pear bread. And so I made banana pear bread, paleo, no added sugar. That's a big deal, the no added sugar. Like wheat and sugar are like the two, like, no, I don't want those. I don't want those around at all. I don't want to eat them. I don't want to be a part of them. I don't want to, whatever. So then it's like, okay, well, that takes out a lot of your desserts, basically, if you're cutting out wheat and sugar. So to find this recipe, one medium banana, the super brown bananas, a pear, three large eggs, vanilla, almond flour, tapioca flour, coconut flour, cinnamon, baking soda, and salt. And I made that, and the bread itself was really tasty.
Really good.
You like that?
Mhm. Really good.
I felt like it needed to be like dressed up a little bit. So I got this idea in my head last night. I was like, okay, I want to try it out because, we've got this tasting event coming up on September the 29th. And I want to try, pears are probably going to be somewhere in this whole mixture because, we got pears. And so I was like, okay, well, I can make the bread and then I could make some kind of like caramelized pear. So I looked up all the recipes and now I'm trying to do it without sugar, but I'm like, honey, I could use honey because I got all some delicious honey. And I'm like, oh, what can I do? And so I find this recipe and it is called Easy Cinnamon Sauteed Pears. So I'm like, okay, I want to drizzle some pears and some sauteed pears, some caramelized pears on top of the bread with some honey. And I'm going to serve that up at dinner table tonight. And in my mind, it was just going to be just like on the Bear. Like it was just going to be like this 3-star Michelin, like, like a thing. First of all, I clearly don't know how to caramelize anything because I burnt the pears.
Low and slow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I guess I should have read the recipe. Like that's one thing. Don't like that is the thing with me is I don't read I go, oh, yeah, okay, ingredients, great, and then I just
Mhm.
like throw it all in a pan and cook it, and then I burn the shit out of something or
Oops.
like overcook. Don't even try to cook I don't cook meat well unless I'm like purposefully trying to, like, that's the reason why I use the Instant Pot when I cook most meat, because you have to like follow the rules to cook meat.
Yes.
Otherwise it's going to turn out dry and disgusting and over salted or whatever. But it was pears, coconut oil, water, and cinnamon. And the way you're supposed to do it is slice your pears up, heat the oil in a skillet over medium high, and then you add the pears, water, cinnamon, and then you stir it. And then you're supposed to cover it and cook it, and then don't stir it too much until the pears are softened and caramelized, so about 10 to 15 minutes. What I did was like turn it on high and just like
Stir the hell out of
I
it.
smoked out the whole house, you know. But either way, I was like, I'm doing this anyways. I'm gonna serve it up, and it looked like a brown bunch of goo.
It didn't look the best, but it was really good.
I'm going to show you guys the picture. You're going to get to see the picture. But it actually tasted pretty good.
It was.
Drizzled the honey on the top of it, and the pears were cooked and they were delicious. And they had, you know, even though the pears were dark brown on the outside, over caramelized, basically burnt, they were still nice and sweet and delicious inside. And we cleared our plates. So
Sure did.
on all of that, we cleared our plates. So it was a good experimental dinner. That's the thing. It's like, you know, when I have people out here that I've not ever served anything to or whatever, I'll probably be a little more, I don't know, who knows, like, but there's a whole experimental thing. There is an element of like, it's Kim.
Yeah,
Kim's my friend, you know,
yeah.
like, you know.
And I just go with the flow. I
Yeah,
really do.
yeah.
Like whatever's good for me.
Well, it was delicious and I enjoyed cooking it. And so I'm glad that everything turned out pretty good. And I will try the banana pear bread with caramelized pears and honey again, possibly for the tasting.
Nice.
I think
Redemption.
I think I want to try to play with it and try to figure out how to make it work. You sent Luna off to college a couple weeks ago, huh?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's it feeling to have the first one headed to college now?
It actually, I mean, it was nerve-wracking, you know, leading up to it and taking her. And it was kind of funny because I guess everyone, you know, talks about how they cry, you know, when they leave. We were so exhausted, like I didn't have the energy to cry, you know, so that just wasn't a
From
thing.
getting ready for the move?
Or no, like
from
when
just-
when I dropped her off and we're leaving, you know, and I was so tired.
Mhm.
But she's doing good. And I feel like our relationship has gotten better in a sense.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
my house is cleaner, so
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
it's nice. It's
Yeah.
nice.
It's interesting to get even one more person out of the house, how it just brings the house down a little bit. And then, because you've got two more still at
I
home.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty peaceful.
We went through this podcast basically like in 2019. I had one that just went off to college. Then another one, like basically ours just peeled off, you know. Lily is now a sophomore and she is at A&M College Station now. Luna went to UTSA. Yeah. So I would say the first out of the house, she was calling me a lot, sad and missing, and you know.
Yeah, she had called me and well, actually I talked to her the next morning and she was like, I almost called you last night to drive up, and I'm like, I'm glad you didn't, because I probably would have.
Right. Yeah.
But it's good. And like I'm not calling her, I'm not trying, you know, bothering her.
Yeah.
I let her call me, you know,
Yeah.
but which is hard, but doing it.
Well, that first semester went by. She learned that she hated her roommates. She learned that her roommates were dirty, which I think is really fascinating because it's like now she's the clean one. And I'm like, she was the dirtiest one of the house for all the years, like until, well, that's not completely fair, but to a degree. And you just see them evolve into, you know, who they are now. But she texted me the other night. And this was after I'd had the 2 hypnosis sessions, and she'd been pretty hard on me. Where she's going in life currently is very different than where I am in life currently. So she just pledged a sorority. She's a tri-delt. And everybody's like, what? You know, how did that happen? And I'm like, well, believe it or not, I was a Delta Zeta when I went to Texas A&M University, and you picked up a junior league coaster over there a while ago, you know? So, I mean, I did a lot of that same kind of stuff, and, you know, trying to figure out my path, find my way.
Well, you know, it's just a different form of community.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you know?
Exactly.
I mean, we've always been just doing it a different way.
And she needed that. She wanted that really bad because she was at Blinn her first year, she didn't really get to be involved in it the way she wanted to be involved in. It's like Corlin went to college, went to university, and he didn't call home. He didn't like, he like went straight into it, and he did fish camp, and it was the most wonderful thing in the world. And then he got in the freshman leadership organization, and then he became the leader of the freshman leadership organization, and they became the leader of fish camp, and not the leader, but like,
Mm-hmm.
one of the lead. And so he just like went, and he was on his own, and he's just like a different like character all to begin with. But she didn't have the community the same way I think she thought she wanted, or wanted to have it. And she's always been a little bit more interested in that kind of, I don't know, white collar privilege kind of, she went to school in London, you guys. So let's, for those of you that don't live in Corpus Christi, that's like the elite school district in our area. You know what I'm talking about. And so, there's just this element of that in her right now that was in me when I was that age as well. In a lot of ways, she's kind of acted like I wasn't cool. I think we were talking about this the other night when we had we went out the other night for a minute and went to a wine dinner. I think we were talking about like, well, don't they know that we're like cool, and that like people like us, and that like
Totally cool.
we're really cool? I'm like, don't they know that? And I'm like, I keep hoping someday she's going to figure out that I'm cool. Well,
I think what we need to figure out is maybe we aren't as cool as we think sometimes.
you know what? No, honestly, I think it's the opposite. I think we need to just lean into our cool and stop thinking we're not cool just because they're 19-year-old, 18-year-old
telling us we're not cool
babies that don't know shit yet.
Exactly.
Like just the hypnosis thing happened the other day. And one of the things that we talked about in the hypnosis session was about my communication skills. And one of the things I told Michelle was that I have this tendency about me. I think you'll probably understand this, but I have this tendency about me that if you're not talking about something I think we need to be talking about, I don't fucking want to talk. Like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, I'm just kind of like, I get real bored with, so it's like, it's a control thing. What I'm going to talk about is the most important thing, or else I don't really have a great interest to talk about. Like, I don't want to talk about something. I'm going to say Gucci bags, but that's not a good excuse because you want to talk about Gucci bags.
Well,
I don't want to talk about Gucci bags.
I don't love. Well, it's just
You're different. She has a stylist business, by the way. She's actually a stylist, and so
I run across a lot of great vintage Gucci.
Yeah,
so
well,
I don't like the modern stuff so much.
That's so cool. That's so cool. That's actually like always one of my like thing. Like, I don't want to sit around the table and talk about purses, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. If I was with Kim, I'd want to talk about purses.
But see,
so it has to be the person I'm talking to.
That's true. But I'm really not enjoy it. I do it, but I'm not, like really into it. If that makes sense. I mean, I get them and then I turn them over and flip them.
Yeah.
I don't need to have them in my life.
What you're into is the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yes.
What I love about your business is when you're a stylist and you're selling all these cool vintage things that you get to like test it out first.
I do, if it fits, which it usually doesn't, but that's okay.
I could carry a vintage Gucci bag, by the way. Don't catch me wrong on that one. But we were talking about my communication, and we were talking about, needing to be better, like less arrogant, have more compassion. Like, just because I don't think it's interesting or I don't want to talk about it doesn't mean that the other person doesn't need to be heard, and she asked me some questions about like, who in my family, like what is my communication? And we talked about, all kinds of things, but we talked about Lily, all of the healing things I've done in life, like every single thing, especially in these last few years when I've really like gone deep into like, I have got to figure out how to heal some of this stuff. And I've been really focused on letting go of those layers and trying to let go of the old like survival techniques that I use, these control methods, these manipulative methods, whatever it was that I did, the habits that I learned as a child for protection, basically, that I can let them go now, that I don't have to be reactive to everything everyone says or doesn't say, that I can just have more, I can respond. I don't have to react.
That's huge.
Yeah. So focusing on, when I think about what's so important to me about the healing processes that I'm going through, yes, it matters that I want to feel better in my body. Like, I don't want to feel that anxiety in my stomach and in my heart every single day, in all my joints, and like every single day I don't want to feel that. But bigger than that, the thing that hits me to my core is my relationship with my daughter and my mother. The generations of mother-daughter, right? The healing that we can get through. And I think that that's a part of my purpose. I think that I'm one of the parts of our generations that is here to help us heal some big things. I got a text from her the same day or the next day, and she said, "Hey, Mom, when you've come across or see, or if you have around the house or whatever, any trinkets or little things that we could use to decorate, let me know." And she said, "Because, I like the way you decorate. I think that I said, "Well, what's your," because I was like, "Well, what's the style?" Because that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, what's the style? What are y'all into? What do you want to put up there? And she was like, basically like the way you decorate, like your living room, your bright colors, your, whatever. And to me, that felt like a synchronistic, you're purposefully trying to be there for what you can be there for.
What
And
they
she,
need.
yes, and she does like you. And there are things that she thinks are cool about you. This goes back to some of the conversation we were having at dinner about the crap we tell ourselves inside of our head. And that my higher power was telling me straight away today, listen, what you need to do is learn that you, Aislinn, are worthy of love. And I'm like, wow, because because somebody who's real arrogant in personality, like I have learned to be over the years to protect myself, basically. And I think I learned that in the last 10 to 15 years. Like, I think I might have picked it up a little bit. That arrogance, I think, though, the way that I described it last week with Michelle was, bulldog in public, but the little scared puppy in private. It's that. It's like I don't believe inside my own inner self, my inner child, that I'm worthy of love. But when I'm out there in public, like, oh, you better recognize I know everything, and I'm the person that you and if I don't want to talk about it, we're not talking about it. And if I don't, whatever. And I just thought, like, going through this process of watching our children become adults is really scary, because you get to this phase where they could just leave you and just not want to be a part of your life anymore. And it's funny because my mom said that to me, it wasn't that long ago, about some anxiety about, like, well, if I make you mad or if something happens, then you won't want to spend time with me, you won't want to hang out with me anymore, or and I'm like, oh, well, my love is unconditional.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's never going to change. But it gets me thinking about, oh, these patterns of thought where it's like, oh, I could begin thinking, like, oh, if I piss my kids off enough, they might
Right.
not love
Want
me
to talk to
anymore.
me.
They might
Yeah.
not want to be a part of my life anymore. They might not, whatever. And because I could never imagine. I mean, I like to give myself plenty of boundary. I need to learn better how to create boundaries, but because I give myself a lot of space when I need space, and I wouldn't call that like a healthy boundary necessarily. The idea that she would think inside of her mind that I would ever, like, cut off my relationship with her, that I could think that my daughter could do that to me.
Right.
And I don't think she could. I
No.
don't think that's the kind of children I raised,
Well, that's the
as angry
thing.
as they are
Yeah. I mean,
sometimes.
we have our moments, Luna and I, but that unconditional love is everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Unconditional love is such an interesting thing, because that's one of the things that I've had to face in these recent times is feeling like if you cut somebody out of your life, that you don't love them unconditionally. And I learned that no, you can cut somebody out of your life and still love them unconditionally. And it's fascinating to this new era of, like, midlife, new identity, new season of Aislinn. Uh, I don't know who I am sometimes,
and that's okay.
or maybe I know who I am, but I don't know where I'm going and what's the point and why. And I'm still trying to figure.
Maybe that's the beauty of it.
I think that there's an element of just not knowing. I think that a huge part of my arrogant nature is saying, I know this. And what I'm learning now
I don't know this.
is that I don't know this. I don't know anything. I really don't. Like, I know what I think, and I know what I've been taught, and I know what I have created, but I don't really know anything.
I know. I just always say, I'm just so glad my kids aren't assholes.
Yeah.
I didn't raise assholes.
Yeah, no, my kids are amazing.
Hmm.
Just I don't even I can't take credit for any of that because I just parented. I don't even know like I I just I just did the best I could.
Right. No, yeah. You
I,
don't think about it. You just do.
yeah, I don't know that there was anything I did that was right. I just loved them
Right. And that's all you can do.
and constantly told them that whatever they did, whatever they chose to do, that was okay. But I react very emotionally. Like Cortland came over here the other day, and I was sitting on the couch crying and blah blah blah. And I thought later on, I was like, that is not what he wants to do.
Right.
He does not want to come over here and be my freaking counselor,
Hmm.
you know? But there's a habit there that, and he's going to be quick to get married and not come home all the time.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, he's here in Corpus Christi right now, and I've only seen him a couple of times. He's not like hanging out over here on my kids. I mean, why would he? Right? Because he's going to come over here and I'm going to sit on the couch and
Cry.
cry and tell him all my problems.
Hmm.
He's like, Mom, I did that for
Hmm.
18 years. I did my duty. I don't want to do that anymore. And I get it. And I appreciate that for
Hmm.
him. And so I think that like this era of life, some of the things you're dealing with, you
Hmm.
still got two at home, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's elements like we've talked about, there's elements of things like my kids count on me for things, but it's not it's not the same as having them at home counting on
Oh, it's
things.
totally different.
Yeah.
Right. Hmm.
And I'm in that space of like emptiness that feels sad, or maybe we just were taught that it's supposed to feel sad
Right.
because it's the freedom I've been looking for all
Hmm.
my life, the opportunity to cook whatever the heck I want to or not cook, wash the dishes or not wash the
Yeah.
dishes, not feel resentment about doing chores, just
Hmm.
getting stuff done around my house.
Oh, yeah. There's not any set timeline, or you
Hmm.
don't have to do something. It's kind of freeing.
Yeah. And
It's
so
nice.
I think that I'm learning to lean into that now finally. I think the first months or so, I mean, it's like I I didn't know. I don't think I knew what I was doing. I said I think I was upside down. I felt like there was this element of me that was just like upside down, no clue what I'm doing here. And then I think that I'm finally, how like when you flip a bobber upside down and you can like hold it underwater upside down. I
Hmm.
think I was like holding myself underwater. And then all of a sudden, when I decided to stop holding myself underwater, and maybe that's because the hypnosis kind of helped, or maybe the trip, the long
I think all of
drive,
it. I
yeah, all
think
of
all of
it.
it.
And it's like I just let go and I just went whoop and
Hmm.
flipped back and then popped to the
Hmm.
top of the water.
I'm
It's like,
back.
yeah, exactly. I feel like a different person
Hmm.
again. It's kind of
Hmm.
fascinating.
Yeah, I like this new season of
Oh,
Aislinn.
that's why I love you. I mentioned that you're a stylist and an entrepreneur.
I
Tell us
am.
about your business. Tell us what do you do and
Um,
where can we find you?
so my business is called Metropolis. I source vintage, pretty carefully curated pieces. I definitely have a style.
Yeah.
Maybe one would say gaudy, but no,
Yeah, I like it.
I do too. But it's definitely a style. You can find my pieces. I have a section upstairs at Renaissance Antiques
Mhm.
on Antique Row. I am also in 2020 Vintage. I'm super lucky to be in like the two best vintage stores in Corpus Christi,
Nice.
which is really nice. And then I'm also on Etsy.
Yeah, so
Um,
people can find you that are online.
right,
Yeah.
right. So,
You'll have to send me the link to your Etsy stuff and I'll put
mhm,
it in the show notes.
perfect,
That way if
perfect.
somebody's, floating around out there in the
Mhm.
world, they can check it out. And then our locals, know where to find the vintage stuff as well. And Kim is amazing creative. I think that that's the thing cuz we used to do the newspaper together
We
in
did a
college.
long time ago.
And so it started with a creative.
Mhm,
You know, I used to look up to you. No, I still look up to you, but back then, I
mhm,
mean, I just like when I first met you, man,
mhm.
I just thought you were like I was a little bit intimidated by you.
That's
because
so bizarre.
you were like so powerful, and you were the photographer, and
Mhm.
you had a column that was
I
yours, and
did. How fun.
I
You know what's
wanted
the
that.
coolest thing is that I mean, so it was just Del Mar. I mean, not just Del Mar because
This
it's
is
a
the
great
junior
school, but
college
yeah,
year. Yeah.
junior college.
Mhm.
And I remember I requested press passes for South by Southwest.
Yes.
And I got a whole like music festival pass, like a badge, and I got to go like backstage. I mean, it was just like awesome.
Uh-huh.
I had all kinds of access.
Yeah.
And I was like at a low, I mean, just a junior college, which
Right.
is again, not just,
Right.
but it was just really cool,
Yeah. But I sometimes think that that stuff has more to do with our Sagittarius nature, that like lucky, like magical personality that we have. Because think about your life. Every vacation you've ever been on, every night you've ever gone out, the number of things people have offered us in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like backstage passes and special VIP events
Yeah.
and special dinners and just all kinds, like I've had so many things given to me, offered to me, special,
It's nice. It's
like
nice.
hot air balloon rides.
Oh, that's fun.
My first night headed out on my road trip, a friend of mine had a hookup for a hot air balloon ride. And so here I go, setting off on my trip with no plans outside of where I'm going to sleep. And then I'm driving to Michigan. And the very first thing I do is go in a hot air balloon
That's
ride.
so much fun. Of
So
course.
cool.
Of course
But
you did.
that's exactly
No,
how it
I know.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly how it works. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's do the random question thing. Um, I'll go ahead and let you
Am
draw.
I supposed to say unanswered questions?
No,
No.
because this is random questions.
Oh, random questions. Sorry.
It was funny because how that got like that's like permanently stuck when I have an unanswered questions
Mhm.
now, because Whitney did that. She was like sitting there and I was like, okay, I have an unanswered question, and she goes, unanswered
And then I thought I heard it
questions.
last, maybe or
It is.
today from
You
last week
did.
with
You did.
Michelle. Okay.
I go, that was so good. I go, I need that recorded. And so I made her record it. And I was like, you're about to be the unanswered
Oh, I
questions, like
love that.
tagline
Hmm.
or whatever. And so that's how that happened. All right. Draw a question here. And you can hand it back to me and I'll ask it of you. If you were very attractive, if you,
I'm ugly.
would you use your looks to get ahead? Well, I am very attractive, so
Um, I think I've always been more into my brain. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, yeah. I mean, I'm not ugly per se, but I don't think I'm like the most attractive person in the room. So, I
yeah,
had to use my smarts.
yeah.
So,
I'm just arrogant enough to believe I'm the most attractive person in the room, and I hell yeah, I've used my attractiveness to get what I wanted. I use everything I can to get what I want. I mean,
Mhm.
if it's my brain that you want, well, I'm going
Yeah,
to give
yeah.
you a good
What do you
brain.
want
If
here?
it's my good mouth that you want, I'm going to give you a good talk or whatever. If it's my looks that you want, actually, I've had to learn how to, that can get you in trouble
Hmm.
using your looks to get what you want.
Well, I also think that's why I'm such a good dresser is because I have
Hmm.
to like make up for other things,
Yeah.
So,
I think you're attractive.
well, thank you. I
I'm
appreciate
attracted
that.
to you.
Well, thank
I've
you.
always been attracted to you. I think you're great. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us for dinner tonight.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
You were on, I think, season 2, maybe. If you guys wanted to go back and look, you can find an old episode where you hear the old episode with the old cast and all the old things that were occurring. Or maybe you don't go back, or you can if you want to, whatever. But either way, Kim has been on
It's
here twice.
the new season, so
It's the new
no.
season.
So don't go
You're like,
back.
don't go back. Just go forward. Aislinn, just go forward. They're not going back anymore. I love it. I love that we get to have these great conversations every week, and you all join us here at the table. And I'm grateful, so grateful to those of you that are supporting the podcast, and also those of you that are supporting my Patreon channel as well, and all the things that we're doing here. And if you would please tell a friend about the podcast. If you think it's interesting, if you're finding interesting conversations coming up, I think the conversations are pretty fascinating. I think that it's interesting to see. It's not that I don't know people. I know everybody. Some people I know more than others. But when you don't set a script, but you just kind of come up with some ideas of things that you might have in common to talk about, and then you just let it fly, it's exactly what I wanted for a podcast.
So
Just
much
like,
better.
who knows what's going
Mhm.
to come out of our mouths or what we're going to say. And it's funny because the first couple of seasons, I would feel like I might be afraid of saying certain things, and when we were editing, a lot of the editing was, oh, I don't want to say that, or oh, that, I also think that in the past, I kind of always felt like I was the bitch of the podcast. And now I understand a little bit more about what
You
was
were the
happening there.
villain.
I was the villain. I was the Omarosa. I
Mhm.
said that several. I think I might have even said that in a podcast, or at least said that to, like, don't make me the Omarosa of the podcast,
Mhm.
you know? And so now it's really fascinating to just, I don't care. I don't care. If you think I'm Omarosa, fine. If you don't agree with my political stance on whatever, fine.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. I just want to be honest and open. And I do think that it's important that the work that I'm doing, to understand the arrogant nature that isn't necessarily who I am, or not isn't necessarily, isn't who I am, but understand how it comes across, and if it's not being, if compassion is not being received from the messages that I'm giving, I want to understand that, because I want to be attractive, but not just good looking.
Right.
I want people to know that I'm a safe, kind friend with a safe place for healing and love and joy and peace, because I know a lot of people say those words,
Mhm.
but that's been the core of everything I've been doing all of my life.
That's the important parts.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
what it's about for me. And all of the other crap that comes along with it, the arrogance and the controlling and all of the other crap, is fear
Mhm.
and being afraid that I'm not going to be liked by everybody. And you know what? I'm not
Yeah.
going to be liked
And
by
that's
everybody.
okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Love you.
Bye.